In last week's A Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge was his usual happy self.
I wish to be left alone. Since you asked me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support these establishments. They cost enough. And those who are badly off can go there.
But then, something familiar and ghostly came his way.
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
I told you they were shadows of the things that have been, that they are what they are. Do not blame me.
Spirit, show me no more.
The story of whether the world of business really can have a heart now concludes. Awaking and sitting up in bed, Scrooge felt that he was restored to consciousness in the nick of time, for the express purpose of holding conference with and challenging the next spirit sent to him through Jacob Marley's intervention. Being prepared for almost anything, he was by no means prepared for the nothing that then occurred for a full quarter of an hour after 1 o'clock struck. Nothing except for a mysterious blaze of red light, which started to stream upon his bed. Beginning to think that the source might be in the adjoining room, he got up softly, went to the door, and turned the lock.
Enter, Ebenezer Scrooge.
It was his own room, but transformed. The walls and ceiling were so covered with living green foliage that it looked like a perfect grove, covered in bright gleaming berries, with holly, mistletoe and ivy reflecting back the light, surrounding a mighty blaze in the hearth. Heaped on the floor, forming a kind of throne, were turkeys, geese, great joints of meat and game, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, fruits of all kinds, barrels of oysters, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. Sat in easy state upon this edible couch was a jolly, glorious giant, holding up high a glowing torch to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping through the door.
Come in, and know me better, man.
Scrooge entered timidly and hung his head before this spirit.
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me.
Clothed in one simple loose green robe bordered with white fur, the giant's breast and feet were bare. On his head was a holly wreath covering long, dark brown curls that were as free as his genial face and joyful demeanour.
Have you never seen the like of me before? Have you never walked forth with the younger members of my family? My elder brothers, born in these later years?
I'm afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit?
More than 1,800.
A tremendous family to provide for. Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learnt a lesson which is working now. Tonight, if you have anything to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe.
The room and its wonderful contents vanished. They stood in the city streets on Christmas morning. The sky was gloomy, and the small streets were choked up with a half-frozen, dingy mist, whose heavier particles descended in a shower of sooty atoms. Yet there was an air of cheerfulness abroad, for the people shovelling away snow on the housetops were jovial and full of glee. Soon the steeples called good people all to church and chapel, flocking through the streets in their best clothes and with their happiest faces. At the same time emerged innumerable others, carrying their Christmas dinner to the bakers' shops for cooking.
The spirit stood with Scrooge in a baker's doorway, and, taking off the covers as their bearers passed, he sprinkled incense on their dinners from his torch. Once or twice there were angry words between some jostling dinner carriers. The spirit shed a few drops of water on them from his torch, and their good humour was restored immediately.
Is there a peculiar flavour in what you sprinkle from your torch?
There is. It is my own.
Would it apply to any kind of dinner on this day?
To any kindly given, to a poor one most.
The spirit led Scrooge, holding his robe, straight to his clerk Bob Cratchit in Camden Town, blessing the house on the threshold with his torch. What has ever got your precious father, then, and your brother Tiny Tim, and Martha wasn't as late last Christmas Day by half an hour? Why, Martha, bless your heart alive, my dear, how late you are.
We'd a deal of work to finish up last night and had to clear away this morning, Mother.
Well, never mind, so long as you are come. Sit you down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm... Lord, you bless you.
Oh, no, there's Father coming. Hide, Martha, hide.
Why? Where's our Martha?
Not coming.
Not coming? Not coming on Christmas Day?
Father!
Oh, come here, you.
And how did little Tim behave?
As good as gold. And better. Somehow, he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much and thinks the strangest things you've ever heard. Coming home, he told me that he hoped it might be pleasant for the people in the church to remember on Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. Because he was a cripple. He is growing strong and hearty.
In due course, 2 young Cratchits went to fetch the goose. Mrs. Cratchit had made the gravy, Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigour, Miss Belinda sweetened up the apple sauce, and Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner of the table, and Mrs. Cratchit carved the bird, with the long-expected gush of stuffing issuing forth.
Oh, I don't believe there was ever such a goose cooked.
And then the pudding arrived, like a speckled cannonball, blazing briefly in an oh-too small quartern of burning brandy.
Oh, this, Mrs. Cratchit, is a wonderful pudding. I do believe it is the greatest success you have achieved since our marriage.
At last the dinner was all done, the tablecloth cleared and fire made up. The whole Cratchit family drew round the newly swept hearth as Bob proposed a toast.
A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner and a carefully preserved crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, no, kind spirit, say he will be spared.
None other of my race will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Man, forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide who shall live and who dies? It may be, in the sight of heaven, that you are more worth less and less fit to live than millions like this poor child.
Mr. Scrooge.
Huh?
I give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast on, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, it's Christmas Day.
It should be Christmas Day, I'm sure. Oh, which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Scrooge? You know he is, Robert. No one knows it better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
Oh, I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very happy and very merry, I've no doubt.
The children drank the toast after her. It was the first of their proceedings which had no heart in it, casting a dark shadow over the party which was not dispelled for 5 minutes. After it had passed, they were 10 times merrier than before.
Scrooge's nephew laughed infectiously, holding his sides and rolling his head. His niece, by marriage, laughed as heartily as he. She was exceedingly pretty, with a surprised-looking capital face.
He said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live. He believed it too.
More shame for him, Fred.
He's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and not as pleasant as he might be. However, his offences carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against them.
I'm sure he is very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so.
What of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He don't do any good or make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he is ever going to benefit us with it.
I have no patience with him.
Oh, I have. I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always. If he takes it into his head to dislike us and won't come to dine, what's the consequence? He don't lose much of a dinner anyway.
Indeed. I think he loses a very good dinner.
He may rail at Christmas till he dies, but he can't help thinking better of it if he finds me going there in good temper year after year and saying, "Uncle Scrooge, how are you?" If it only puts him in the vein to leave his poor clerk £50, that's something. And I think I shook him yesterday.
It was the party's turn to laugh now, but Fred encouraged them in their merriment and passed the bottle joyously. After tea, they had some music and then played the game of how, when and where. They all joined in, and so did Scrooge, forgetting that his voice could not be heard. He sometimes shouted his guesses out loud.
A horse, a camel, a donkey. Here's a new game. 1/2 hour more, Spirit. Only one.
So it's a live, disagreeable and savage animal that growls and grunts, lives in London and walks about the streets. I found it out. I know what it is, Fred.
What is it?
It's your Uncle Scrooge.
He has given us plenty of merriment, I'm sure. And it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. Uncle Scrooge!
Uncle Scrooge!
A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man. Whatever he is. He wouldn't take it from me, but he may have it nevertheless. Uncle Scrooge!
Uncle Scrooge had become so happy and light of heart that he would have pledged the company in return and thanked them in an inaudible speech, if the ghost had given him time. But he and the spirit were again on their travels. Much they saw, far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirit stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. By struggling men and women, and they were patient in their greater hope. By poverty, and it became rich. It was a very long night, because the whole of the Christmas holidays were condensed into this single space of time. While Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older, his hair now grey.
Are spirits' lives so short?
My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight at midnight. The time is drawing near.
Forgive me if I am not justified in what I ask, but I see something strange, and not belonging to yourself, protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?
It might be a claw for all the flesh there is on it. Oh, man, look here. Look down here.
The boy and girl, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous and miserable, yellow, meagre, ragged, scowling and wolfish.
Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's, and they cling to me. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both. But most of all, beware this boy.
Have they no refuge or resources?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
The bell struck 12. The ghost was gone. Scrooge remembered Marley's prediction. Lifting up his eyes, he saw a solemn, draped and hooded figure coming rapidly like a mist on the ground towards him.
The phantom approached silently and stopped. It was shrouded in a deep black garment that concealed its face and form, leaving nothing visible save one outstretched hand. But for this, it would have been difficult to detach its figure from the darkness which surrounded it.
Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?
The spirit did not answer, but pointed onward.
You are about to show me shadows of things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us. Ghost of the future! I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear your company, and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me? Lead on, then. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know.
Business, money, business.
The city sprang up about them so that they were in the heart of it. Amongst the merchants who hurried up and down, chinked money in pockets, conversed in groups and looked at their watches, the spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen who Scrooge knew.
No, I don't know much about it. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
What was the matter with him?
God knows.
What has he done with his money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know. It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for I don't know of anybody going to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer.
I don't mind going if a lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I make one.
The phantom approached two others. Scrooge knew these also perfectly. They were men of business, very wealthy and of great importance. He'd always made a point of standing well in their esteem, in a business point of view, that is. Strictly business.
How are you?
How are you?
Well, I hear old Scratch has got his own at last, hey?
So I'm told. Cold, isn't it?
Seasonable for Christmas time. You're not a skater, I suppose?
No. Something else to think of. Morning.
Scrooge looked about for his own image, but another man stood in his usual place, and though the clock pointed to his usual time of day to be there, he saw no likeness of himself.
They left the busy scene and went into an obscure part of town, where Scrooge had never been before. The ways were foul and narrow, shops and houses wretched, and the people half-naked, drunken, slipshod, and ugly. Far in this den was a low-browed beetling shop where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were bought. Sat among the wares he dealt in was a grey-haired rascal, nearly 70 years of age. A woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop, closely followed by a second, similarly laden, and then a man in faded black.
Let the charwoman be first, the laundress second, and the undertaker's man third. Look here, old Joe, these are charts. If all we three haven't met here without meaning it.
You couldn't have met in a better place. Come into the parlour. The parlour was the space behind a screen of filthy rags.
What odds then? What odds, Mrs. Dilber? Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did.
That's true indeed. No man more so.
No, indeed.
Wicked old screw. If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, why wasn't he natural in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have had somebody to look after him when he was struck with death, instead of lying, gasping out his last there alone by himself.
It's a judgment on him.
Open that bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it.
But the gallantry of her friends would not allow this. The man in faded black mounted the breach first and produced his plunder to be valued. It was not extensive.
That's your account, and I wouldn't give another sixpence.
Mrs. Dilber was next.
Sheets and towels, 2 old-fashioned silver teaspoons, pair of sugar tongs and a few boots. There you are. That's your account. I always give too much to the ladies. It's a weakness of mine, and that's the way I ruin myself.
And now undo my bundle, Joe.
What do you call this? Bed curtains? You don't mean to say you took 'em down, rings and all, with him lying there?
Yes, I do. And why not?
Oh, you were born to make your fortune, and you'll certainly do it.
Don't drop that oil on the blankets now.
His blankets?
Whose else do you think? He wasn't likely to take cold without them, is he?
Hey, I hope he didn't die of anything catching.
Ah, you may look through that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find an hole in it. It's the best he had, and a fine one too. They'd have wasted it if it hadn't been for me.
What do you call wasting it?
Putting it on him to be buried in, to be sure. Somebody was fool enough to do it, but I took it off again. If calico ain't good enough for such a purpose, it isn't good enough for anything. He can't look uglier than he did in that one.
Joe produced a flannel bag with money in it and told out their gains on the ground.
This is the end of it, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive to profit us when he's dead.
Spirit, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heaven, what is this?
A bare, uncurtained bed. Beneath a ragged sheet, there lay something covered up. A pale light rising in the outer air fell straight upon it. The body of a man. Scrooge glanced towards the phantom. Its steady hand was pointed to the head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted that the slightest raising of it on Scrooge's part would have disclosed the face.
Spirit, this is a fearful place. In leaving it, I shall not leave its lesson. Let us go. I understand you, but I have not the power to do it, Spirit. If there is any person in the town who feels emotion caused by this man's death, show that person to me, I beseech you.
Is it good or bad?
Bad.
We are quite ruined.
No, there is hope yet.
If he relents, there is. Nothing past hope if such a miracle happened.
Oh, he is past relenting. He's dead.
Thank God. To whom will our debt be transferred?
I don't know. But we shall be ready with the money this time. And it will be bad fortune indeed to find so merciless a creditor and his successor. We may sleep tonight with light hearts.
Oh.
Spirit, let me see some tenderness connected with a death.
Poor Bob Cratchit's house. Quiet. Very quiet.
And he took a child and set him in the midst of them.
It must be near your father's time.
Past it, rather. I think he's walked a little slower than he used to these last few evenings.
I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed. There he is. You went today then, Robert?
Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that I would walk there on a Sunday and... My little child. My little child. However, and whenever we part from one another, I'm sure we none of us will forget Tiny Tim. And I know that when we recollect how patient and mild he was, although he was a little child, we shall not quarrel easily among ourselves and forget poor Tiny Tim in doing it.
No.
No, never, Father.
Spectre, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. Tell me what man that was whom we saw lying dead.
The churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves.
Before I draw nearer to that stone, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or that may be only? Am I that man who lay upon the bed? No, Spirit. Oh, no. Spirit, hear me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I might have been. Why show me these things if I am past hope? assure me that I may yet change these shadows that you have shown me. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, present and future. The spirit of all three shall strive within me.
In his agony, eyes closed tightly with the strain, he grasped the spectral hand hard, desperately.
I will live in the past, present and future. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. Ha! The bed curtains are not torn down. Rings and all they are here. I am here. I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather, happy as an angel, as merry as a schoolboy, as giddy as a drunken man. There's the saucepan that the gruel was in. There's the window where I saw the wandering spirits. It's all true. No fog, no mist. Heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells. What today, my fine young fellow?
Today? Why? It's Christmas Day.
I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. Hello, my fine young fellow. Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one, at the corner?
I should hope I did.
An intelligent boy. A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they have sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? The big one?
What? The one as big as me?
What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
Ooh, care.
No, I am in earnest. Go and buy it, and tell him to bring it here. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't know who sent it. Here's the turkey. Why, it's impossible to carry that to Camden Town. You must have a cab.
Scrooge could not stop chuckling with everybody and smiling. He dressed himself all in his best and at last got out in the streets, walking with hands behind him.
Good morning, sir, madam. A very Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas!
He had not gone far when he saw, coming towards him, one of the gentlemen who had called at the counting house to request a donation to the poor.
Oh, my dear sir, how do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. Will you have the goodness to... What I would like to do is to give you a lot of money.
Lord bless me. My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, not a farthing less. Come and see me. Will you come and see me?
I will. Merry Christmas. Scrooge went to church, and in the afternoon he turned his steps towards his nephew's house.
Is your master at home, my dear?
Yes, sir.
Where is he, my love?
He's in the dining room, sir, along with the mistress. I'll show you upstairs if you please.
Thank ye. He knows me. I'll go in here, my dear. Fred?
Oh!
Why, bless my soul. Who is that?
It is your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?
Uncle! It is you! Ha-ha! Come on in!
Scrooge was early at the office next morning. 9 o'clock and no Bob. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come into his cell. At a full 18.5 minutes past the hour...
Hello? What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I am very sorry, sir. I am behind my time.
You are? Yes, I think you are. step this way, if you please.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday,
Now,
sir.
I'll tell you what, my friend. I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am going to raise your salary.
Sir?
A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier one than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavour to assist your struggling family. We will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop. Make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. To Tiny Tim he was a second father. He became as good a friend, master and man as the good old city knew or any other in the world.
And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas better than anyone.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay.
In A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, S.J. Vant played the first narrator and Jim Newberry the second narrator. Mike Aris featured as Scrooge, Jamie Elliott was Scrooge's nephew Fred, and Frankie Hart was Scrooge's niece by marriage. Nigel Banks inhabited Jacob Marley, Danny Scott played Bob Cratchit, Emma Willits was the ghost of Christmas Past, Mark Smith played the fundraising businessman, and Sid Moon was the ghost of Christmas Present. All other parts were played by members of this cast. The drama was adapted and directed by Jim Newberry. All special effects and the soundscape were engineered by Robbie Burgess. This was a joint Old Dolly and Peoplescope production.
And joy, oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Business, money, money, business.